On this special edition of Inside Government, Bopp students Omari Phillips and Giuliani Roberts sit down with Prime Minister William Marlin. Stay tuned for that interview next.
Welcome to Inside Government. My name is Giuliani Roberts.
And I'm Omari Phillips.
We are current students of the Bopp program. Today we are here with the Prime Minister, the Honorable William Marlin. Welcome, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be here with you people this afternoon.
The first question is, how long have you been involved in politics?
Well, that goes a way back before you were born. On December 15th next year would be exactly 40 years that we started the St. Martin Patriotic Movement. I see you frown because some of you, probably your parents, may not even be 40 years yet or just around there. But on December 15th, we started a political party, St. Martin Patriotic Movement. We contested our first election in May of 1979. So we started in 1978, so in 2018 would be 40 years that we started. Of the group of people that started back then included Vance James, the deceased Vance James, the late Vance James Jr., Elaine Gums Vlon, Leo Friday, Dr. Randy Friday's father. He was the president of the party. Darky Washington, he was one of the members of the party. And I was the secretary of the party. I'm the only one who is still active in politics who started then 40 years ago.
As Prime Minister, you are responsible for the well-being of the country. Does that overwhelm you sometimes?
It's a good feeling being the Prime Minister. And when I say a good feeling, you know, I've been a teacher before. And the reason I got involved in politics is because it was at a time very critical of things happening in our society. And it is easy to stand on the sidelines and criticize. But if you really want to do something about the things that you're criticizing, the best thing to do then is to get involved. If you think that something should be done better than it is being done, rather than criticizing it, get involved. So I've gotten involved. One of the things that I tell people whenever they say, you work long hours, you don't get tired of it. I say, my boy, I can't complain because I beg for the job. I campaign for it. I put my name on a poster. I head a political party and I campaign and ask people vote for the party, vote for me because I want the job. Now I have the job, I got to do the job. There are days that you almost like you want to quit because it is indeed overwhelming. And there are other days that you feel very satisfied because you've accomplished things. I'm saying, you know, you just said, thank you for the building. One of the things that I was happy that we were able to help solve, even if it is on a temporary basis, is a situation with the Charlotte Brookson Academy. The students had nowhere to go. The teachers had nowhere to teach. And we were fortunate to be able to make provisions, even though it is temporary. And together with the Minister of Education, we are working on a permanent solution for the school. So yes, there are days that you say, boy, why did I take it on? And there are many more days that I'm happy because you can say mission accomplished. You put a smile on people's faces. Take, for instance, the government building. Okay? It is a good feeling whenever you drive by to know that you were instrumental in finally getting it the way it should be. And at night when you pass by sometimes and see it all lit up so beautifully, you feel proud of the accomplishment.
What were your day-to-day activities like?
What are my day-to-day activities? Yes. It varies. It varies because on every Monday, and oftentimes I don't get to make it, but every Monday I have a meeting with the governor. The Prime Minister and the governor meet every Monday, and we discuss a range of things pertaining to the government and the country. Officially, the meeting was like for 2 hours, and we would start sometimes at 2:30, and we would be there sometimes until 8, 9 o'clock in the night. A full day's work, so to speak, because it's like 7, 8 hours sometimes the two of us would put in talking and discussing. Prior to that, every Monday morning, we start off with a coalition meeting. The coalition meeting is the meeting between the three parties that make up this government, which is red, white, and blue. The Democratic Party, red, white National Alliance, and blue, the United St. Martin Party. Tuesdays, we have Council of Ministers. Every Tuesday morning, I have to chair those meetings. On Wednesday, we have the press briefing. Thursday, we have Council of Ministers again. But every day, I have meetings either with, like for instance, I just came from a meeting with the SG, which is the Secretary General, the top civil servant, the manager of my ministry, Mr. Plantain. But every day I'm meeting with ministers, I'm meeting with people from the public, I receive people. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, the schedule is so packed. Then in between, there are visits here or there are funerals that you need to attend, there are receptions that you need to go to. And for the past couple of weeks, I've been very busy traveling overseas. I went to the United Nations in New York, where I had to speak on behalf of the kingdom. From there, I went to Washington, D.C., where we met with the people who we are dealing with pre-clearance at the airport. Pre-clearance is that people who are going to the United States would clear immigration and customs, U.S. immigration and U.S. customs in St. Martin. So when you reach in Miami, New York, Puerto Rico, or wherever you are going in the United States, you no longer have to clear immigration and customs. You can walk through and catch the next flight. Then I was in Miami last week, where I was a guest and a speaker at the conference for the National Association of Black Hotel Owners and Operators. That too was a success. So sometimes I'm not here, I'm traveling, but when I'm here, I usually leave the office after 8, 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock in the night.
What does being Prime Minister affect your personal time with your family?
It is one of the things, every time sometimes that when you look back, now you're maybe too young yet to say you're going to look back, even though both of you have already lived long enough to sometimes say, well, I should not have done this, I should not have done that. I would never say I should not have entered politics, and I would never tell anybody, don't serve your country. But what I do tell younger politicians, do not neglect your family. I have been dedicated whenever I'm in government. I spend a lot of time in office. I sink my teeth into the work because it's about service. You service to your country. But when you have a young family, my youngest son, who's now 22, was born when I was a commissioner. I hardly used to see him because in the morning when I leave, he's sleeping. In the night when I come home, he's sleeping. So it's like weekends, you're spending time with somebody who is living in the house with you. Because of spending so much time in the office, we started going for an ice cream drive in the nights, and the entire family became addicted to ice cream, so to speak, and I was the one who was never, until recently, able of kicking the habit, let's say. Used to eat a whole pint of ice cream almost every day for years. But because you travel a lot, because you have meetings a lot, because you have to be in Parliament, Island Council back in those days, long meetings, because in the daytime, as Prime Minister particularly, you're working with all the ministers, you're having discussions with them, you're having meetings with them, you're seeing some people, and then It is when the office closes at 5 o'clock and everybody goes home. Like I'm looking at my watch now, and I have several meetings that start today at 5 o'clock. Yesterday was the same thing, and that's about every day. Luckily, now I don't have children at home. They're all grown. But I have a wife who's at home all day, every day, basically by herself. And it is not something nice. Oftentimes I say, rather than speaking to the politician, sometimes people should interview the family of politicians to know how they have been neglected. But also, what is painful for some family members of politicians is the criticism that they get. If you look at CNN or MSNBC and the criticism that the president of the United States is getting, if that is your father and you have to tune in every night and hear criticism, if your father is the prime minister and you have to read the blogs or read the newspapers and this criticism, or people calling on the radio station, or you sometimes innocently in a bus, or you in a restaurant, in a supermarket, and you hear some people, oh, the crazy government, they know what they're doing, and people should throw rocks at them, and people should and it's your father they're talking about. It hurts. So the family of politicians oftentimes suffer even more than the politician, because it's almost like you can tune it out. I tune it out with my work. I'm busy. I try to remain focused. But sometimes, your children want to open a newspaper, and it's like, it's nice when they see you delivering a speech at the UN and people are happy or people are proud. But then the other day, if they criticize something about government or they say something bad about your father, it hurts.
If you were not involved in politics, what other career do you think you would pursue?
Well, I started teaching when I was 20. I became principal of a school when I was 25, I think it was. So my career was in education alongside politics. When we started out in the Island Council many years ago, I combined being a member of the Island Council and being a member of being principal of the school and being a member of the Island Council. I can remember going to meetings. I go to school in Colby in the morning, principal and teacher, and 10 o'clock the Island Council meeting starts. I leave the school 9:45. We didn't have traffic jam like today. Run into town, and if the meeting finished 11 or 11:30, go back to Colby to school. Years after, members of the Island Council and now members of Parliament, if you work for government, you would have been full-time. But if you didn't work for government and you were a member of the Island Council, you had a job, okay? So today, I've been happy as a teacher. I love to teach, and that's why I guess I love to talk so much. But right now, if I had to step out of politics, I'm retired now as a teacher, but I love to cook. People would know that. I love to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I like to make people smile, make people happy. This morning I got up, for instance, and I made some Johnny cakes and saltfish and shared with the staff at the office. Another day, something else I would cook. There is nothing, or there's no reason today for me to say, well, if I'm not a prime minister, if I'm not in politics, what am I going to do? Because I'm not thinking about that. One of the things that I say, I believe I'll work until the day I die, and I plan to live to be 112. So when I say I'll work until I die, not as a politician or not as a minister, but I can't see myself retiring and staying home to pick up grandchildren, drop them school, go pick them up 1 o'clock, bring them home, sit down and play games with them and rock them to bed 7 o'clock and then go sleep. That's not who I will be.
What parts of your job do you love the most, and you enjoy the most, and when you
Which
enjoy
part I
the
don't
least.
like?
Yeah.
It's I don't think I can say there is one part that I love the most. In general, what I like is to get things done. What I like is, let's say, to make people happy. Like I just said, Charlotte Brookson had a problem. You solve it, they are happy. People have a housing problem. You solve it, they are happy. I can remember when I became commissioner many years ago, before you were born, in front of where you have Jump Up Casino, used to be a pond of water every time it rains. Big pond of water. I became commissioner. I decided we got to do something about it. We cleaned it up. We removed that standing water there. Roads were not paved in those days. We had one or two main roads that were paved with street lights. So you become commissioner and you vow to start a road paving crew, and we started paving roads. We didn't have public schools other than Orion School, Martin Luther King School, and Leonard Connor School in Colby. Children were going to school in houses that they rent, in former bars, in churches. Again, I decided as commissioner, let us buy land as government, build schools. We bought a land in Colby to build Leonard Connor School. We bought a land in Dutch Quarter to build Martin Luther King School. I bought a land here at Hope Estate to build the Genevieve the Weaver School. I think I said already the land in KB we bought to build the Leonard Connor School. So those are things that when you get them done, you feel good. You feel happy because you've accomplished something for the people of St. Martin. Building the homes after the hurricane in 1995, when many homes were destroyed and thousands of people were without a home, being able to provide for them. The things that I don't like or I don't enjoy, I really don't know. I wake up every morning. I'm happy to go to work. I'm happy that I'm in a position to serve the people of St. Martin. So I really, sometimes you have a meeting that, man, it didn't go the way you would want it to go. You had a discussion and it's not, somebody comes. I think the thing that hurts me the most is when somebody comes to you and you can't help them. If somebody tell you, I need a job, I have a family, I have my kids to support, I need to pay my rent, and you can't help them. And it doesn't mean that you got to give them a government job, but the fact that you can't help them, period. Maybe you can, and one of the things that make me feel happy is if somebody comes and they have a problem, and I can pick up the phone maybe and call someone and get them a job. And that person leaves there happy. And you know that next month, that person who was unemployed will be able now to pay their rent, feed their children, and take care of themselves. Those kind of things. So getting it done makes you happy, and not being able to do something about it, not because you don't want to, simply because you can't, creates sometimes a sense of frustration.
How is St. Martin preparing for the 2017 hurricane season?
How is St. Martin preparing? One of the things that we have said since the start of the hurricane season, which was the 1st of June, to be prepared. The Disaster Management Committee that is headed by the Chief of the Fire Department, the Disaster Committee, the head of the disaster is the Prime Minister, but those that do the everyday work is delegated to the Fire Department. They coordinate it along with the police and VKS and some others. They have been putting out bulletins. There were notices. We had things written in the newspaper, announcements on the radio. This morning, driving, coming to work, and if you pass by Bush Road later on, and it would be good maybe if the camera crew goes there, you as part of your training here maybe can take your camera and take a picture. This morning would have been better to take the picture because Public Works employees were out there in their bright orange uniform, cutting and pruning the trees along the Bush Road. Why is it important? For the water runoff, but more so if you have heavy winds, they damage trees sometimes, and then it creates an obstacle in the road if you have fallen trees. So people are advised always to be prepared, to have an emergency kit in your home to secure valuable documents like passports, birth certificates, and these kind of things, that in the event you need to travel immediately after the hurricane, that they are not damaged. And even if you don't have to travel immediately after the hurricane, but these are documents that you don't want get destroyed in the event of a hurricane. I lost, for instance, all my diplomas. Every one of them were in files on the top of a shelf by my mother's house, where the roundabout is at Coal Bay. Now again, before you were born, and I'm not trying to rub it in, but it's to show how long ago it was. My mother used to live at that last house there where the roundabout in Coal Bay is. The house is no longer there. And in the hurricane of 1978, I think it was, took the roof off. Everything got soaking wet, and all my diplomas were drenched with water. And I don't have any to show today because they were destroyed. Other people lose things in fire. So the preparedness is to tell people to be prepared, prune your trees around the yard, pick up loose lying debris around your yard, have the necessary batteries, make sure you have water. Now people would say, yeah, but I buy water every week. No, make sure you have at least 2 cases of water put aside, that in the event of hurricane, because if you're only buying your water, let's say, for this week, and if the hurricane comes, you don't want to be standing in long lines at the supermarkets or by Ace or Koiman trying to get batteries or trying to get a flashlight. If you have a generator, make sure it is working, it is running properly. And if you have an automatic switchover, have someone test it, make sure that it is ready, make sure you have fuel. All of these are part of the hurricane preparedness. We can never be prepared enough, but we can be prepared. Know that if the announcement comes and the Prime Minister says a hurricane is coming, it will most likely hit us on Friday, that you don't panic. Oh my God, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. No, it's there. It's ready. So you should not, now you're going to fix the window in the back of the house. Now you're going to make sure that the hinges are on properly on the door. In January, February, March, you can say, well, okay, no big deal. But once we start to enter that season, you got to make sure those things are in order to avoid that if the notice comes, you don't have to be doing those kind of things at the last moment.
As Prime Minister, what is your message to the young people, to the country?
We can talk an entire afternoon on what a message would be to young people. Firstly, get an education. A couple weeks ago, and that is one of the things that bothered me. That this is one of the things that I feel was not completed, let's say. A couple of weeks ago, I'm leaving home, and I live up South Reward, close to Milton Peters College. And driving past Academy PSV, 3 boys were viciously attacking one guy. I don't know any of them. I drove in, stopped the fight, the guys ran away. The one who was basically the target, he was there, and he was angry, and he wanted to go after them. And I convinced him that it didn't make sense to leave it alone, and I insisted that he comes with me. I'm going to take him home. If he doesn't come to me, I'm going to call the police. I was late for a meeting. Bottom line, I took him and dropped him at the 8 Road where he was living. Actually, I wanted to bring him to the police station so that he can file a complaint and the police can further delve in the matter. I pleaded with him that this was not the way to resolve an issue, even though he is not the one who started the fight, but he was convinced that he was going back to deal with it. I told him it didn't make sense. We can see the death, unfortunately, of a young man about a week ago. How does it start? A fight. Where did the fight start? By the gas station. Where did it end? In Cold Bay. How did it end? With the death, untimely death of a young person. Somebody whose life came to an end, who had plans, whose family invested in raising your child, but never see him to become a young man, let alone a successful one.
Thank you for coming, Mr. William Marlin. It was a pleasure having you.
It's been a pleasure being here with you guys. I got 2 calls to remind me, about the interview today, and my response was, no matter what, I won't let them down. I will squeeze you in, and I lived up to my promise. I hope that this discussion we've had would be shared and listened to by many others, particularly the young people of St. Martin. You've asked some tough questions, tough in the sense that it made me go back many years ago. Sometimes you can answer a question with yes and no. Or if you ask me, how long have you been in politics? I say, since 1978. But, I elaborate some more so people get an idea of what took place 40 years ago before you were born. So it was a pleasure. I hope we can do this again before your stint here is over. And even if it's over, maybe you can drop by every now and again to brush up and maybe to do some kind of a special program.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Prime Minister. This has been Inside Government. Thank you for watching.